Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. And today, we'll be joined by Tamara Leigh, author of the upcoming book, Swamp in Our Backyards. Tamara, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, we are thrilled to have you. Are you ready to begin?
I sure am.
All right. Question number one. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
I would pass along the same advice that I came across at one point, is that I heard many authors make the mistake of writing their book first, and then they finish it and they're like, okay, now what do I do with it? So I started building the audience for the book and began with building a following, building a presence, so that once the book was completed, I had people who were familiar with me, who would be hopefully buyers of the book and interested in the content. So, and I worked to get myself published as a published author with articles and my own podcast and putting things out there. So kind of worked on the marketing piece first, and now have gotten to a point to where I can put the book together and hopefully have those two pieces work together, both the published finished book and then an audience and marketing strategy in place.
And what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
Well, I think it's always comes down to connections, right? Well, and I took a script writing class and have volunteered in filmmaking and have worked as the director of communications and marketing for Hankerson Henry Productions on our film Gullah Geechee Quarter and the East Coast Greenways. And so I've dipped my toe in that, and with any good script, as people try and get their movies back in the day when you could only go exclusively through Hollywood and a production company, the line there was to write good shit, right? So I think that applies also for a book, is that if you write great content, people are going to be interested, timeliness, and then I think connections, and of course the financial side of it, the money part comes into play too. So that's how I would think of the challenges, or at least the hurdles you have to pass through in order to get a successful book published and bought, right?
Absolutely. Let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you're planning to use with your book launch that you feel is going to work well.
So as I said, I started building my brand and getting myself out there with published articles, as a speaker, as a podcaster, as a social media influencer and presence. And so for the Swamp in Our Backyard, I have been working with the pardonflynnnow.com in the political arena, and it's a takeoff of President Trump's swamp, the Drain the Swamp. And for me, I have said that the swamp starts in our backyard. So they swim upstream to DC, and it starts with local engagement in your politics. And so I want to write with that sort of focus. I am writing that Swamp Tactics. It's all the things that you encounter. People think the judicial system is meant to be just and fair, and it's a rude awakening for anyone who comes across it and finds out it is not. And I've had many guests on my own podcast, Tamara Leigh's Trend On, and my co-host Brent Hamachek. We air Wednesdays, 10 a.m. Central Time on YouTube and Periscope. I've had guests across different aspects of the judicial side. I mean, with Michael Flynn, of course, it's the great injustice of the injustice system with Sidney Powell, his attorney, but also people who have reached out to me and said, can you help us get our side of the story out? So I like to give voice to that side of the story that gets silenced through those gatekeepers in the judicial process. So that is sort of the focus and background of the Swamp in Our Backyard book. The Sunshine Sadie is because I'm a rom-com gal, and kind of taking off of Little Woman, which is one of my favorite books and movies, is that write what you know. And I started there in writing a story that was, it's about SAD, seasonal adjustment disorder, seasonal affective disorder, which all of us can relate to in this COVID quarantine of getting cabin fever, and how seasonal affective disorder is a thing and what you can do to remedy it in the relationship. It's sort of a rom-com based on the bird and the fish. You know, how do you get along with Sunshine Sadie, who's a Southern California gal, and Sam, who's a Wisconsin man, and in the Midwest, and the clash of cultures, and then how do you overcome in the context of this seasonal affective disorder. So that's sort of the two books. I've written a screenplay. I'm working with the Hankerson Henry production company that we can hopefully create an independent film, which I love about independent filmmaking is it's taken the power brokers away, the gatekeepers, so that you can get your work out there. So that, again, is part of the marketing strategy, is to work on ways to get your material published and produced. So that's my strategy. We'll see how well it works, right?
Absolutely. Well, speaking of books, I'd like to know, what is your favorite book, and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
That's a really tough question. I have many favorites. Of course, for my Swamp in Our Backyard book, I just finished reading License to Lie, and then ordered Conviction Machine, which are Sidney Powell's two books on the injustice system. So I love those two. And then, of course, Atlas Shrugged, and then Gone with the Wind for a strong character. But so I guess I don't have one, and then the Bible is my background scriptures of a lot of really foundational principles. So I didn't have just one, but one of my favorite, and the quote that I hope to, I don't know for your next question, but from all of those books, I think you take away your character, and to be able to write and put into words a saying or a sentence or a quote that resonates with your audience. I feel like that is the defining definition of success. So.
Got it. So that's your favorite quote?
Well, no, my favorite quote is the one I haven't written yet, because I hope to write one that would become iconic, right? There's 100 top quotes. One of my favorite is from Little Women, and Joe March says, "I should have been a great many things." And I think sometimes I feel that way as a woman, of trying to decide what after having raised 5 children, what am I, defined apart from that role. And so I think it speaks to possibility and what we still can accomplish, but writing what you know. So that's one of my favorite quotes.
Got it. Well, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
Well, if you are interested in either of the books and want more information about how to get those ones, I have them completed shortly here. You can email me at Tamara, Tamara Leigh, Leigh, LLC at iCloud.com. And you can follow me on Twitter at Tamara Leigh, again, TAMARALEIGH_LLC. You can find the Swamp Tactics on pardonflynnnow.com. And then you can hopefully join us for our podcast Wednesday mornings, 10 a.m. Central Time at Tamara Leigh's Trend On, and we're both on Periscope and YouTube.
Tamara, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to meet you and your audience. Thank you.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how to get your book published with a proven system that works, grab a free copy of my book at getpublishedpodcast.com.